So I don't believe that it's our thoughts that attract things into our life. I believe it's our beliefs, especially those limiting self-worth beliefs. I think that anything that comes into your life is just a lesson. I don't really see things like love and friendship, and I don't think anyone's your enemy or your lover or your friend. Everyone's your teacher, right?
You're listening to the Almost 30 Podcast, a lifestyle podcast hosted by Krista Williams and Lindsey Simsick.
Tune in for a new episode every Tuesday to hear our honest conversations about topics like wellness, entrepreneurship, spirituality, and self-development with guests who are really smart, really inspirational,
and really fucking funny. It's real, it's raw, and it's unfiltered.
Inspired by our transition from our 20s to our 30s, we realized it's so much more than that. Our mission is to provide you with the tools, guidance, and motivation to help you navigate any transitions in your life and propel your personal growth.
Thanks so much for tuning into the Almost 30 Podcast.
Here we go. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Almost 30 Podcast.
Welcome to the Almost 30 Podcast. We're a lifestyle podcast.
It's Lindsey Simsick.
Aimed at making you feel good.
And Krista Williams. Hey, everybody. Welcome. Thanks so much for joining us. If you're new to the podcast, we're so happy you're here. Thanks for finding us. Thanks for subscribing on iTunes. And if you love it, tell your friends. And if you're not new, welcome back, y'all.
Welcome back. We're so happy to see you. How have you been, Linz?
I've been good.
How are you? This is actually the first time me and Lindsey have talked.
I know. This is the first time I'm seeing Krista in person.
Yeah.
Like
or that we've actually
No, I know.
I've actually said, hello, how are you?
Hello, how are you? I know. I'm good. What is today?
Got your hair done. Looks great.
Oh, thank you.
Good cut.
Up in a bun.
Who was it? Oh my gosh, at my work, it's on office of all girls. And there's one guy, his name's Brian. He's adorable. He's perfect for our little girl crew.
Mm-hmm.
He said that whenever his wife tells him that she has her haircut or getting her hair done, he puts it in his calendar. So he makes sure to say something about it.
Does he have a brother?
That's so
cute.
Is that too much?
No, it's not. My brain doesn't remember stuff like that.
Like you're so cute. Isn't that adorable?
So cute. Yes.
Like, I want to eat you up.
That's so cute.
Like,
hey babe, did you get your hair done?
Yes.
Yeah, that's all you want to hear.
She's like, no, we rescheduled.
He's like, oh.
He's like, fuck my calendar invite.
Yeah, a haircut and a color just does wonders for the ego.
I need a cut so bad.
The color looks amazing.
It's fine, but it's good, Jenna. Thank you. I love you. But I need a cut so bad. It's just $100. I don't want to spend $100.
I'll cut it for you.
Honestly, please cut it. Getting it trimmed. I just need a little trim. Tiny trim.
$100.
How much is yours?
Well, I have a deal because of Soul Cycle. $30
to get it cut.
I swear.
That's how much it should be.
Color's $50. Like it's a crime.
What do you guys do for them?
Do you want to say you just go?
Yeah. What do you guys do for them?
They get free
classes. Oh,
but they never go. I don't think.
Does everyone else get their hair done by them?
A lot of people do. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and I'll put them on my social.
Social security card so they can use your credit.
Yeah.
To
take my identity as long as you make me blonder.
Yeah, mortgage your house, whatever. Yeah, I need a haircut so freaking bad.
Yeah, everything's good. We're headed into November.
Yeah, it's crazy. Well, it's in November now, technically.
Yeah, technically. Thank God
for this podcast.
So we're recording this intro on Halloween, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
So we're
happy Halloween. Before. It's just us.
Can
nothing.
I just tell you, don't.
I know.
Halloween.
I want to love it though. Like I love people that love it. Like I respect you if you love it.
I said that today. I was like, I love watching people
Me too.
enjoy themselves.
I was listening to something. Oh, Anna Ferris's podcast. She's so cute. And one of her questions was, is this a deal breaker if he has a birthday party for his dog? And she said, and the girl, it was Kelly Clarkson. Kelly Clarkson's like, maybe, like whatever. And I was thinking, I'm like, yeah, life is so hard. Like have a fucking birthday party for your dog. You know what I mean?
I kind of love that.
That's the same with Halloween. Like life is so hard. Like it can be such a grind sometimes and it's beautiful, whatever. It's a beautiful mess. La, la, la. But like, if you want to dress up,
totally
dress the fuck up.
I just don't want to be forced.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
to do it.
I just want to pay.
Yeah, maybe that's
thing.
the
It's
deal.
the $50. Like it's honestly $50 to $80 to buy like a cool costume.
100%.
You know, you have to like really do it.
It just ebbs and flows for me. College, fun.
Oh yeah.
When I was 5, fun. And I think like when I'm 35 and maybe have a kid, it'll be so fun again.
Oh, exactly. That's what I say. I'm like, when I have kids, man, I'm going to be freaking, I'm going to freak them out. I'm going to be so obsessed with it. There are going to be hundreds of costumes.
I want to be scary.
You do. That's a good one. Yeah. I want to like be really bloody.
Yeah.
They're like children.
Like I'm a tampon.
Yeah.
Today's special.
Yeah.
We have on Lacy Phillips.
Mm-hmm. Girl crush.
Girl crush.
Girl crush. She's fine as hell. She's fine as hell. We were introduced to Lacy from a good friend, Jenna Zoe. So Jenna Zoe was on the podcast. I don't know if you guys remember, but she was the human design reader. So she's Jenna Zoe Daily on Instagram. She did our human design readings and was so amazing. I love her so much. And she introduced me to Lacy. She's like, you guys would really get along, like blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, cool. You know, I always am like, yeah, I would love to meet anyone. I'm happy, but this was like such a good fit. We had so much fun. We went to Erewhon. So start of a beautiful evening at Erewhon. Lacy bought me a tea. Oh, I was like, I love you.
So nice.
And so Lacy Phillips is of Free and Native. It's at Free and Native on Instagram, and freeandnative.com is her beautiful website and blog. And she does a lot of things. It's health and wellness. It's holistic living, but mostly it's about manifestation. So not really sure if you guys are familiar with manifestation. It's pretty hot here in LA, but manifestation is basically like the focusing of your thoughts or belief patterns towards something or things that you want in your life. I think Lacy would have a better
her whole like theory behind manifestation is different than like the
secret.
Yeah, the secret.
Yeah.
So her theory regarding the universe is that its main intention, and I'm reading this from her website, is to assist us in becoming our most evolved versions of self. Therefore, the closer we get to becoming whole, integrated, the more we are rewarded with the subjects we're calling in. So she kind of took us through step by step her way of manifesting. We also talked about clearing blocks. So like kind of, I think we had a conversation, we did, about reparenting.
Oh, yeah.
So kind of going back pretty far. And she also uses hypnosis in her one-on-one sessions. So that was really interesting to talk about.
So we hypnotize you during this episode.
Yeah, be careful. Don't drive.
Buying more stuff. Just kidding.
But yeah, it was just so interesting. I felt like, you know, we have a lot of conversations about the quote woo-woo, but this felt super grounded in the sense that, you know, you can call on these things in your everyday. You don't have to like sit and light a million candles and like get all the things and the crystals. It's a step-by-step process that really, I think, speaks to everyone universally. So yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so excited to share this.
It's amazing. So again, we like actually, and this is a lot of the episode, and I would basically say that this is about manifestation. It's also about Lacy's journey and Free and Native, but we really asked her to get very specific about the steps in what you want to manifest. So like Lindsey said, clearing blocks, whatever your problem is in your life that is blocking you from having exactly what you want. And then manifestation is those exact steps to get you there. So pencils, papers out, get ready to learn how to manifest and build your friggin' dream life.
All right, guys, enjoy this episode. First, a word from our sponsor. This episode is brought to you by Four Sigmatic, FOURSIGMATIC, #on shrooms, because at Four Sigmatic, they believe in the real magic of functional mushrooms like reishi, chaga, cordyceps, and lion's mane. I'm a believer. It's really changed the game for me. Krista and I have been obsessed with Four Sigmatic for a while now, so we're so honored to have them as a sponsor. We wanted to highlight products each week that we are loving, and I, this week, needed more than anything the Reishi Mushroom Elixir Mix. It's something I take at the end of my day to really loosen up, decompress, settle down, get good and comfy. I don't have trouble sleeping, but I do have trouble kind of like winding down. My brain's always on. I'm working out during the day for Soul Cycle, and I just can't settle the fuck down. And this has really, really helped. Four Sigmatic calls it like liquid yoga. That's cool. But I mix it with like hot water or hot almond milk. It's just so good and really works. So you can go to foursigmatic.com/almost30 and you can get a discount at checkout. We are so happy to be partnering with Four Sigmatic. So let us know what you think. Let us know what you buy. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to message us. Ask us what we're using and what has worked for us. Again, we'll be highlighting a new product every week. All right, guys, we love you. Enjoy this discount and enjoy this episode. Coming to you live from Santa Monica, California.
Santa Monica.
We have the beautiful Lacy Phillips in studio with us.
Hi.
Welcome.
Hello, Angel.
Thank you for having me.
I felt we were like, we're always like kind of rushing here in between, whatever. And then when I saw you, I felt very calm. Grounded. I was like, oh, this is going to be nice.
I love that. Don't you love that?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's like a few times when we see guests and we're like,
yeah, I just feel like, okay.
Yeah.
You guys gave me a hit of energy.
Oh, really?
Like higher frequency in a good
crazy.
way.
Love that.
It was like, boom, I have energy automatically.
Oh my God, that's actually my life goal.
You're doing it.
Seriously.
You're doing it.
I know someone, and my friend Adam, that I was like the first person that ever gave me a hit of energy like that I've ever known,
Oh my God,
been aware of.
Adam, totally.
Adam. And like every time I would hang out with him, I would feel so energized. And I was like, oh, this is possible.
Mm.
So to be that type of person is like goals.
It is special.
Yeah.
Because think of how many people just kind of suck your energy.
Yeah.
So to be that, it's a gift.
Yeah. It's probably not all the time. Got me on a good day.
Your boyfriend.
Yeah, literally.
So we're so excited to have you. A lot of our listeners, our babes in our secret Facebook group have been talking about you and wanting you on the podcast. So we're so excited to share what you've been doing.
And Jenna, too. She's
God,
really
Jenna
good friends
Zoe,
with Jenna Zoe.
yeah. Oh my
We
God.
met
Who I
through Jenna
can't
Zoe.
recommend
Human
enough.
design.
I know. She's an angel. If you guys
Amazing.
haven't heard the episode with Jenna Zoe, Human Design Reader, definitely listen to that. Lacy and I got to hang out with her the other day. We're now in an Instagram group called Aliens, which is
Very fitting.
life, which gives me life. I was like, I met you and I'm like, this girl, you're just like, you're so like aware and spiritual that it almost intimidates me, but you make it so easy. Like you're just so easy to be around and you're so
Thank
like
you.
light. It's amazing.
Fellow alien to alien.
It's alien
We
to
just
alien.
get the same. Projectors. We
Yeah.
get the same. What were you?
Mhm.
I was a manifest generator.
Manifest generator.
So you're conflicted always.
Mhm.
Wow.
Yes.
You're like, what are you talking about?
So take us back. Like take us
Mhm.
to before, you started your blog,
Mhm.
before you started your manifestation work. Where did you grow up? What was growing up like? And
Mhm.
were you different than everyone? Start.
I always felt different. I'm an Aquarius. I think every Aquarian relates to feeling different in general on the planet. But so I grew up in a little town right outside of Yosemite called Mariposa, which nobody ever really
Whoa.
knows.
Yeah.
It's beautiful there.
It
I've been with my
is.
family. Yeah.
You have?
It's magic. It's,
Bam.
I know. I'm like
Yeah.
shocked.
What's up?
But it's and a lot of people cruise through because they're the tourists and to get to the
Mhm.
park. So I always feel so excited when somebody has been to that blimp. But so I grew up there with we have a ranch outside of there. My dad's a roper and very into the ranching lifestyle. And so between that and also a place called Modesto, California,
Mm-hmm.
which is in the Central Valley. So that was sort of my upbringing. It was like the total dichotomy of the California lifestyle. And then I got an agent around 17 and a half, and I came down here and I was already auditioning for commercials, which parlayed into TV and
For
film.
modeling and stuff?
I was doing modeling,
Okay.
more print work,
Okay.
never high fashion modeling at all, but definitely doing all of that. And it's all I sort of knew right out of the gate. Deferred from school because I got my first commercial, and it was one of those like really nice nationals back in the day. And I saw the
Yeah.
paycheck and I was like, who's going to school?
Yeah, you're like, bye.
And
You're
then
like
I never made,
17.
that much money again.
You're like, I'm going to buy like 40 fun dips,
Totally.
100 scrunchies, and a Nintendo.
For
I'm good.
sure. Done.
Did you get discovered? Sorry.
No, I didn't. You know what's so fascinating? The work I do now, which really looks at so much of the trajectory of someone's life. I think what I was doing there was kind of fulfilling my mom's dream, who grew up down here, and she acted and modeled for a little bit before getting pregnant really young with me. And it's just something I always heard about. And I think a point of connection for my family and I, because we all are very different, even my father and I, it was always through film and television. So it felt, and for me, I never wanted to be a theater actress. That later, the appreciation for it came much later on. But I think we're all just wanting to be seen. And I think that was my version of it. And so it was going fine, but skip to, I sort of had a conscious awakening at 25. And it wasn't that conscious, but I had a moment heading to a pilot audition where I was just like, I don't really want to be on this pilot. I mean, I do because I want to buy a house in the hills and all the things, but I don't actually want to be on it. And I just started to really take inventory of the thousands of auditions. And at that point, I was going out on everything any lead actress was going out on, aside from celebrities. And so I started to look at my girlfriends who were already, feeling like they had to fit into a mold in order to go down that lifestyle and that road. And then what really hit me was, out of the thousands of auditions I had been on, there were only 2 projects I ever truly wanted to be a part of, which was How to Make It in America and Greenberg. And so that hit me. I was just like, whoa, 0.0000 whatever percentage of the time I'm going to have control over my future and also being happy. And simultaneous to all of this, a parallel, at 17 and a half, we always had a family intuitive that my mom consulted. And she, of course, when you're an actor and you have no control over your monetary lifestyle, the first thing you're trying to consult intuitives for is like, is something coming? Am I going to make money? And she said, run out and buy this book, which was called The Game of Life and How to Play It. And it was on manifestation. And she said, follow it to a T, and then you will manifest everything. And I did. I really, as a controlling person, really listened to her, and nothing started to happen. And so that parlayed into The Secret and all of the Hicks books and all of the things. And I think I've read pretty much everything out there in way of manifestation. And I really, truly implemented and lived them all out. And I'm actually a really good manifester that I noticed early on, but never in their ways. So at one point when I had that conscious awakening and quit acting on that day, I also said, I've manifested really kismet, bizarre things, like a $300 apartment in the Echo Park Hills and partners down to their hair and the parents and the things that I asked for. But it was not in the ways of those books. So I'm going to drop all of that and just look at what I do and how what shows up when, what, and how. And so that was about a 2 or 3 year process also while I was starting to generate the blog, essentially, because I had this moment after a really horrific stint working for a fancy preschool in Santa Monica that had the most awful faculty environment. I mean, by the end, I think I had my appendix removed. Everything was manifesting in my body from the tension and the fear.
Were you a teacher?
I was a teacher, yeah. And it was just a really dictatorship-esque. You just always felt that you were on eggshells, watched, nervous, could lose your job. You weren't doing things correctly, had to do all of the work. You were the grunt. You just felt really small. The job made me feel incredibly small. And so once I left that, I had $4,000 in savings. And I think this was at 28 as well. So it was right in my Saturn return where it was like, I know that during Saturn return, we need to learn all of our lessons that we're consciously aware of so that we don't bring those back around again. And so when I left that, I said to the universe, universe, I'll never work for somebody else again. So I'm going to stop and I'm going to allow you to show me what to do next. I'm just listening to signs. So you show me. I have $4,000 in savings and, 3 or 4 months of unemployment coming in, and I'm not looking for a job. And I made a list. That's how I call in things. And I just had some token things on it. It was like white walls, has to be conscious, organic food, in the holistic realm, because that had actually always been my passion. And so I just got quiet and it started to pop up around me. I had 3 different people within a month say, have you seen that blog, My New Roots? Have you seen that blog, My New Roots? And so I finally know in threes to listen louder. And I went and sat down and looked at it. And I was like, oh, okay, this is, I guess, what I'm supposed to do is start a blog, since I'm the person that people within my community consult anyways for anything holistically. So I'll do this. You know, it won't be food-based. It'll just be holistic lifestyle-based. And that's when I did that. And that sort of just kind of took off right away. At the time, I wasn't aware of any other modern holistic blogs that were out there. So I kind of fit that gap that existed at that niche. It wasn't granola. It wasn't cutesy. It was just like masculine, kinfolky, whatever. So it had traction right out the bat. And so during that time, anyone who knows me the way that I just speak, I'd be like, the universe did this and I manifested that and yada, yada. And I had a couple iterations of jobs during the blog. I wouldn't work for other people, but I was willing to freelance and take on clients. And at one point I did some social media, like managing social media accounts. And then I thought, I just like building my brand.
It's like watching kids. It's like, I would only like taking care of my kids.
Yeah.
Totally.
Unless they're amazing and like already flourishing.
Yeah, true. Exactly. And you're just, the biggest client I had was, and we were very in alignment, but there was a point where I was like, I just energetically, I feel like I should be putting this energy into me. So I had that going on, and then that parlayed into being a holistic chef. And I had a few high-profile clients, and one of my actress clients was like, I want to hear a little bit more about this thing you always do, because you seem to be manifesting. And I was like, yeah, I have just a weird formula and process that I do, and I don't know if it works on anyone else. I've never actually had anyone try. And she did and started manifesting, and friends did and started manifesting. And I was like, whoa, this really does work for everybody. The basis, well, I guess we'll get into that in a moment, but that was sort of what parlayed. And then I let that out into the world 2.5 years ago, and it just wildfire took off. And I'm very result oriented. So my clients are just manifesting. It feels great.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would love to get into kind of like how you started to really fine tune that process of manifesting. You mentioned the lists, but is it different every time? Is it
so I'll talk about sort of the foundation and fundamentals, how it really is fundamentally different than what exists out there that I'm familiar with. Because most things that are out there, such as the literature that I mentioned before, and I tend to call it pop new age. It's very spiritual bypass. It's like, think in the vortex, get into the vibration, visualize, turn the station happy, laugh, like be positive, Mm-hmm. And so that's actually very different than the way that I see manifestation and how it works. I believe that essentially the universe's only intention for us is to grow back into our authentic whole being of what we were supposed to have really harnessed in childhood, which is self-worth and just authenticity. And so, of course, through pain and shame and all the things we can go through. And to me, pain and shame, it can be very small or very big. It doesn't have to be sexual trauma. It can be the third grade teacher who told you weren't good at singing, and therefore you threw that into your shadow and you shrink and you're small in that place. So I believe through the pain and shame and all of the whatever we've experienced in our life, we tend to create limiting beliefs, right, that exist in our subconscious. And so I'm very subconscious based in my work. And so I think all of that stuff lives in our limbic subconscious brain. And that's actually the place we project from our beliefs. So I don't believe that it's our thoughts that attract things into our life. I believe it's our beliefs, especially those limiting self-worth beliefs. And so my process is all about, and sort of the formula, how it differs immensely, is that I don't think that you can visualize and have things come to you, because I believe that once we create our subconscious mind, it has sort of a structure of belief around it. And if, let's say, someone's, their calling and authenticity is to be an artist, and they grew up with two banking parents who always said art's a hobby, or they weren't really seen for their art, or they never experienced or watched anybody as a successful artist, they don't have an expansion around that. So therefore, they have to actually go through, and it's simple psychology, mirror neurons, and expand through watching other people who they relate to. I think that's how we all learn as a society and a village. When we can identify what we recognize of ourselves and someone else, we tend to expand a lot quicker. So that's one really big element that's actually really fundamental in my process, is that it's not about visualizing and seeing yourself do the thing. You need to literally go out and see and show your subconscious what's possible through your expanders. So that's one element of it that's very different. And then another element that's very different is I believe that we receive lessons and tests from the universe, which once I figured that out for myself, boy, did manifestation become a lot quicker for me. And that's something that nobody ever talks about. So because the universe, in my opinion, and what I teach, its only objective is for us to grow into that authentic, powerful whole self and project from that state of being, it's always constantly sending us things into our life to mirror where we're small in order for us to recognize, take accountability, and shift that littleness about us. So therefore, we have to project bigger. And so what that looks like, I think that anything that comes into your life is just a lesson. I don't really see things like love and friendship, and I don't think anyone's your enemy or your lover or your friend. Everyone's your teacher, right? So when you take all of that off and you just have the essence and the human experience and you're just seeing the energy of things, usually something's bigger or smaller or praying. And once you find that balance, that's when you connect with your manifestation. So taking that back a little bit, let's say that there's a friend, there's a woman, and I think this is very common for some women, so I'll just use this because it feels like it's a universal example, but let's take the friend who's always dating the emotionally unavailable men, and that's all just because in her shadow and her belief system, she's unworthy for A, B, C, and D. So the universe will keep sending her the same type of experience in a different body. That all that's happening each time, it's just an opportunity to see that mirror and go and shift those limiting beliefs. However, once you do that, it's important to pass the next test because you are going to be offered the same experience again. And so this is where I become really pivotal in the process with my clients to be like, that's absolutely a test. You have to turn that down. And when you do, you create what I call situational magnetism. You become very magnetic. So it's like after a breakup or you leave that shitty job and the universe loves that because it thinks you're stepping higher into your worth, into your wholeness. Therefore, it'll start to send you things to guide you along the way, little gifts, you know. So the lessons and test portion, once you start to really understand that in your, or in someone's process, my client's process, it becomes so quick and easy to recognize and to turn down anything that's not serving us. And that speeds up this process a lot quicker. So there's 3 elements that kind of mean the world. In manifestation, it's expanding your belief system in order to create that space. The second is unblocking. So what I mean by that is going into the subconscious and really reprogramming those limiting beliefs. That's what's going to have you project from a different state of worthiness, especially if you can find the root of what's been blocking or attracting in what you don't want. After that point, it's all about passing the tests that are going to come to you. And once that happens, bam, you align with what you're manifesting, essentially.
For the going into your, this is what I always have a problem with, and it's just like a personal thing. How, like, sometimes I'm like, what are my limiting beliefs? You know, I feel like I have a good understanding of them, but I'm like, isn't everything my limiting, you know? Maybe I have them more of some and less than others, but how do we figure out what those are?
So there's so many ways to go about it, but my favorite just generally is to look at patterns in your life that are continuing to show up that don't make you feel good. So let's say that you keep having the same argument with different people, or you know, a great example for women that I think they can relate to is, let's say you have drama with similar types of women over and over. And then we can start to look from there and examine why you're attracting that in. You know, were you enmeshed with your mom? So anytime drama pops up with a woman, you want to run. I mean, there's so many elements that are psychologically based at that point that we can kind of detect. But the very first start of awareness is looking at what doesn't feel good in your life, because I believe that everything outside of us is a reflection of something we're projecting from our subconscious. So if we can start identifying the awareness of what doesn't feel good, especially seeing how it's existing in patterns in different areas of our lives, because one thing is always attached to another. So if it's happening in love, it's happening in some way with money. You know, if we're small in love in one way and being kind of like bullied or taken advantage of or not respected, we're usually having that happen in our finances as well. So when we can start to recognize that, that's what the work comes, or my work comes in with my clients, where I'm like, you're going to journal that out until you find the root. What did that parallel, you know, in parenting? were you being treated that way, or did your parents not, help you garner a really healthy sense of self-worth around that because they didn't have it. They had a gap in it. So once we figure that out, it's super easy to go into the subconscious mind and start reprogramming that. And another way that I work with my clients is I just take them under and I just ask them questions from a very hypnotic place and get the truth right away. And usually the subconscious will show you really quickly, so it's like if I'll take them somewhere, I'll be like, it'll be them at 6 and it's the girl in school that didn't let them play with the group because they just didn't have enough money or they weren't cool enough. And then, I'll ask them, where did they learn that they weren't cool enough if they didn't have enough money? And really quickly, they'll find the memory to attach to that. And once we have that root, it's super simple to start reprogramming it. So there's a lot of ways to start identifying with that. And that's sort of the gift of, there's 2 ways I go about it. It's like if we work in person, it happens really quickly and really fast, or over Skype or, anything. But because there's so much demand versus the supply of spaces I have available, and I tend to give a lot of homework to my clients, I essentially created what's called Unblocked. And so it's very affordable, and I do them every 6 weeks. And they're the universal issues that I find throughout people in my practice. So like the next one that's coming up is reparenting your inner child and adult selves. It's not at all like the John Bradshaw version. He's like the really big author and therapist who brought a lot of inner child work about. This one's much more detailed to manifestation. Like, were you seen? Were you actually consciously wanted? And so through that experience, they go through and they have tons of exercises and what I call deep imaginings. It's my version of sort of hypnosis. It's kind of very different than other hypnosis. And so they go through all of that and they get this self-exploration that's kind of equatable to what we would do in session. And then they start to learn tools about how they can reprogram those roots that they've figured out just to speed up their process. So it's like, so much of this is about the homework and the shifting self. Doing that will just make you a more magnetic human who cares what you want on the planet. So that's sort of my approach to the awareness.
So if you're getting tested and you keep getting the same thing that's not working for you, so you're saying it's a matter of, I think everyone subconsciously knows, or maybe it's consciously knows. I don't know which one that is actually.
It's unconscious. Yeah, subconscious.
But I think, so you're saying you have to say no to it. And how would you in that moment, is it just the act of saying no and knowing how you feel after you say no, that's the power and that's what would pull you forward to kind of manifest the next level of things that should be coming to you?
So this is a great question because when we're communicating with the universe, I believe that this process and everything in the world is just simple energetics, right? So the act of actually saying no, the sound current of it, I guess that's important, yeah, if that feels like it's the important process. But what's much more important is having an energetic clearness of no. So a great example is, and I'll go back to relationships. I love using
burn his
them.
house down.
I'm literally thinking, I'm attracting the wrong people because I don't say no.
And that's for women especially very, very common.
It's like I know what I deserve, but I don't say no to it.
Hugely. And that's just a self-worth reflection. And it's also not have learned the tools of how to have boundaries or consciously communicate or to just energetically communicate. Like that's not happening anymore. So there's a few layers to answer this. Number one, the energetics of no are far more important than the actual sound current of saying no. And so what I mean by that is, let's take the relationship aspect again. Let's take the woman. I have this a lot in my practice where it'll be the woman who thinks this guy is the one that's holding space in their life. I mean, and I think, have we all been there at some point where he's just not that into you?
Not me, but, I know people. They've told me about it.
So let's take that woman because I have a lot of clients who will be in that position. And And then she finally gets the courage to say, that's it. We're no longer seeing each other. But then she's still holding space for that person in her life. Like they're still hanging out or they're still energetically intertwined. She hasn't fully cut off or communicated to the universe on an energetic level that I'm not taking this shit anymore. And I don't mean that there's anything wrong with him. The only reason why she attracted this is there's a low self-worth somewhere inside of her, a belief that she's not worthy of having a full committed experience with who she wants. And there's many beliefs, I'm sure, attached to that. So the energetics of actually really fully cutting it off create magnetism far quicker, because that's you truly committing on an energetic level to know. And then the other aspect of it, to stop recurring the attraction from coming through, is to have to get down and find the root of why you feel unlovable in that dynamic and situation, what it's representing, the trigger of unlovability, because that's where your limiting belief will be. And then to go down into the unconscious and start to reprogram that until you no longer project from that state of being.
Yeah. It's fucked up because I think I'm lovable.
You're lovable
on a conscious level.
So I'm like, what the fuck? I think there's something wrong with them, but I do, because the common denominator in recent like interactions is me.
Yeah.
I do have to go deeper and figure out what that is.
And here's the beauty of that. You just brought up something that I think any confident woman could use as a Band-Aid, right? Like, I think all three of us in this room are confident women. Mm-hmm. We feel bright, we feel lovable, but there is something down there that exists that we're not even accessing in this conscious beta state that you're not even aware of, that's living down there. And then it's so fascinating once you kind of connect all the dots to be like, fuck, I really guess I didn't feel lovable about that. And it'll hit you. And it's usually really powerful once you figure it out. And then it's just simple reprogramming and simple passing tests, and it will stop. And the beauty of that too, going back to reprogramming, I've had this happen so many times. I actually had this happen within the last year. And I had a recurring issue with a few women who I love dearly, but the energetics were off. I was smaller and there was a larger energetic gap of being preyed on in a way. And I think that's just how simple energy and physics work. Where there's space will fill it. I believe where we're little, we'll be preyed on. And that's actually a gift. It's the universe being like, you can grow and not, there will be a balance. So once I figured out and took accountability in me and got down to what inside of me was attracting that experience, it was so clear. And when I did the work to reprogram it, I didn't even have to have a conversation with any of these women. And our dynamic fully shifted and fully came back around into complete respect, admiration, and balance. So the beauty of this self-work and this dive in and figuring out what it is about us that's actually attracting every experience in our life is so powerful. But the first step of that is even just being humble enough, chiseling away at our ego enough to be like, I do have unlovability down there because I'm a human being and I went through experiences that were painful. So every single one of us absolutely has that. And if we can all get on the same playing field of that humbleness of whatever pain in me is the same pain in everybody else, once we can just open up to that realm that we are co-creating with the universe and our beliefs are what are attracting our experiences in and what we create in our lives, that's number one of awareness. And then number two is being open enough to go and self-explore to figure out what that is. Like the world is your oyster. It's endless if you're just open to that. And it took me a really long place to get there because I was so controlling. My sense of safety was having control of knowing how confident I was. And at the end of the day, we're all just these little humans that in the human experience that all carry on a subconscious level some forms of unlovability.
With the women, what was it? So what was it that you did Like, did you recognize that you were feeling small and their energy was kind of preying on you? And then what?
So with this specific experience, because I've actually had the most trouble with women in my life, and not in a super dramatic way, because I'm incredibly unconfrontational or non-confrontational. So for me, my big thing, I'm very Aquarian about it. As soon as I sense drama, I'll be like, and distance and just retreat. And that's not crazy either. Simple psychology. My mom's an alcoholic, and we were really enmeshed when we were little. So she was little too. She was 18. So we were really little. And so what enmeshment means versus abandonment is enmeshment's when your parents required you to fill their needs for them, whereas abandonment is when they weren't filling your needs. And I had the dichotomy. And she just didn't know any better. She was raised in a very similar environment of chaos. So women who tend to have dealt with enmeshment with their moms are very much to feel trapped when something like that happens with another woman. And so they'll just retreat, walk away, cut them off. And so that tended to be the model that I was attracting, because in order to be whole and authentic and loving and open-hearted, I needed to somehow work through that. So it kept coming in, and it's nothing to do with any of these women I experienced it with. It's literally all to do with me. And so in this particular experience within the last year, what I was sensing, and I could be wrong, but I started to sense that my level and rise in success wasn't feeling good for them. And so there was a preying on. I wasn't getting the support that I was giving. Not that I require that at all, but I'm so sensitive that I could feel it right away. So it was a lot of that. It felt not Mean Girls, but it just felt bad. It felt kind of not good and gross in a way. And so I had to really get down there and figure it out. And when I finally got down and I connected the dots, and I realized that my aunt, and again, not her problem, or it's not her issue, she was raised this way, but I remember when I was young, this is my mom's sister, who I just thought was a god growing up. She was so beautiful. Everybody thought she was so beautiful. And in my family growing up, that's the only thing you were ever valued for, was beauty, not education, nothing else. And we're a bunch of beautiful women. So it's a problem. And so there was always an underline, which was spoken about with my mom, but she was very jealous of me. And so, especially around her daughter. And so she would do a lot of things to make me feel really small. You know, I remember one time that we were going to this water park and I didn't have a bathing suit, and she went to buy one and it didn't have a double layer. And it was like right when I had boobs and things happening. And so right when I would get wet, you could see everything. And I felt so much shame, and I could see it for her. It was a joyful experience, or that's what I perceived. And so things like that from literally the get-go on, and then she mellowed out as I got older. But I realized with her, I was having the same pattern as these other women. It was like a prey on when I was down and they were up. And so what I did is I shrunk when I was little, because for me, it just felt painful and like I was doing something wrong. And so that became a limiting belief for me. And the real one that I connected to was that I'm not worth it for her love. Like I'm just unlovable for her, which actually had nothing to do with me. I was just a kid. It was, you know, her own story playing out. So once I was able to go through and heal that, and heal where I felt that everywhere, the dynamics with those women completely, entirely changed. They just don't exist anymore, because the energy got bigger. And so we're in alignment, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes complete sense. It's almost like you're owning, you know, your truth and like your light.
Totally.
And I see that all the time with women, or even just people in general. If someone is weak, quote unquote, I can't find a better word for it, but if someone is weak in a situation and you're with a bunch of very like strong energies, they pick on that. Yeah. You know what I mean? The person that's
weak. Simple energy.
It's simple. Yeah. And you see it all the time. And it's like human pack mentality.
Yeah, survival of the fittest and what we've been programmed. It's just unconscious behavior. That's all. And not in a you're less than unconscious way. It's just us being unconscious, not feeling like we're all one, we're all connected. So that level of unconsciousness, which most of the society lives in, you know, and we're all trying to find some sense, hopefully, of more consciousness. Well, I don't think we all are, but eventually. Hopefully.
Not all of us.
So your awareness of that limiting belief, you said you didn't have to have a conversation with them. It just totally shifted the energy.
Good question.
Completely and entirely.
I feel like it's just a common maybe imbalance that people experience in friend groups or in family dynamics. So can you just like kind of walk us through maybe like your first interaction with them where you came at it from a different place?
Yeah. So what's so interesting, this is actually the course that I'm teaching right now, the workshop, and I'm trying to figure out a way, I'm not trying to figure out, but I'm trying to figure out a way that I aesthetically dig it to take this digital. But so my new workshop is called Magnetism. So you learn my formula, and then you really learn the techniques of how to gain awareness of where you're small and how to reprogram it, and my whole process around that. So that's going on right now. And why that's so beautiful is because when we do all the reprogramming that we're consciously aware of, and I think that's an ever, ongoing process, but when we do that, it's so crazy how the world starts to just show up differently to you. In a matter of weeks, it starts happening. It's wild. So it's, you'll start to have bosses who were terrible to you who just treat you fine now. It's just crazy. It's like a looking glass. That's how magical it is when we reprogram our own smallness. And that's where a lot of self-help lost me along the way, because I've tried, you name it, and I've done it, which I think a lot of us in this room probably have because it's an interest, and nothing was that powerful. But when I started to see accountability going through myself, finding that, and what about me attracted it and reprogramming it, I was like, whoa, it was crazy. So then I started to guinea pig it out for about a year to about 5 or 6 clients of mine. And then, I had them guinea pig it while watching my most magnetic clients, which were about 5 or 6, to see what about them. Literally, these clients at the drop of a hat they'll be like, I want to be featured in Vogue, and bam, Vogue will get in touch. It's like the drop of the hat. They're so magnetic. And I started to look at the qualities that made them so magnetic, where they were projecting from. And then I had the guinea pigs start to reprogram those things into themselves and start to document their experiences in the world and what was showing up and what they were manifesting. And then I was like, whoa, everyone can do this. It's crazy. Your world starts to just transform. So with these particular women, nothing at all changed. They started to come back into my life a lot more, reaching out, supporting me, sending me stuff that I believe in you. I love what you're doing. I would run into them out of nowhere. And I think whenever that happens, it's like another form of a test. It's, seeing where you're at with something, or you're on the same wavelength. So you're coming together and just being so cool and so beautiful and open. There was nothing I said or did or changed. They just met me differently at that point, because I was meeting them differently at that point. I was projecting a whole different state of being into the world. So that's like the beauty of this process, especially for people who don't fare well under confrontation, which I believe in conscious communication all the way, but I do have a qualm with it, is I believe only a conscious communicator can communicate with another conscious communicator who can receive it. If another person's not in a state of awareness, or they're not open and humble and loving enough to consciously communicate, you're just talking to a brick wall. So this kind of bypasses that experience. It's, you get to go reprogram what about you they're preying on. And at that point, it's just an energetic shift between you and the world. And even, oh my gosh, it's so crazy. Like the moment I started all of this reprogramming, and I've been doing it for probably about 1.5 years, just really testing it on myself and refining and getting deeper. And then it was so crazy, the stuff, because I hit a point about 3 years ago, everything I was manifesting came into fruition. I mean, everything to the T. And I hit this lull, this apathy, where I was like, I don't really want for anything. And I've never had that in my life. And that was actually not a fun experience, because inspiration and the continue to go forward, and I'm not even talking about material items, just like a general inspiration to go greater, that's what drives me. And not having that was so out of control and not exciting or inspiring. So once I did this reprogramming, all of a sudden I had crazy deeper clarity of what I wanted. And then things started to just show up so fast into my world. And they are continuing to, that I actually wanted, which didn't have anything to do with material items. It was actually having to do with, one of the things on my list was I really wanted to start doing podcasts with people because I thought that that would be a message that could get out greater to people who needed it. And they it just avalanched. It's come in. I think I have 4 lined up right now, but stuff has just been...
We're the best.
Rolling in. Yes, you're the best.
You guys, by the way, we're the best.
Obviously.
We're going to put this out first.
Yes.
We got to get on that.
I love it. So I hope that answers it a little bit.
Yeah. We interrupt this episode to bring you a word from 2 of our sponsors. The first is BioClarity. BioClarity.com is where you can go to treat your skin redness, irritation, inflammation, the bacteria that causes acne. It is an amazing 3-step regimen that you can use for your skin. Krista and I have been blown away, to be honest. We were like, I don't know if this is going to work. Like, it's just another cleanser treatment, you know? And it really has. So you start with the cleanser and then you use the treatment, which is kind of like a spot treatment. It adds salicylic acid to battle the blemishes while Xing inflammation and shrinking the pores. And then you put on this like green, I don't even know, like gel. And the green is from the chlorophyll. They call it Floralux, but it's made from the green stuff in plants, which is chlorophyll. These products are insanely effective. I would try it, and you can do so by going to bioclarity.com and using our code almost30, and you will get your first month for $9.95 with free shipping. Okay, that sounds good. To try something for $10, something that's really going to change the game in your skin regimen. You are going to see results after a month. Let us know how you're liking it. Join our secret Facebook group. We want to hear from you. So that's bioclarity.com. Use our code almost30 for the first month at $9.95 plus free shipping. You will love it. Also, we have a word from our sponsor, Hum Nutrition. You guys, Almost 30 Nation is loving Hum. It's so cool to see you guys send us photos of your packages that you get and how it's working for you. We are obsessed with like kind of being on the journey with you guys. HumNutrition.com is where you can go for pure and potent, gluten-free, non-GMO, and sustainably sourced vitamins and supplements. We can't say enough about Hum. We have grown together and we're so honored to be with them on this journey. You know, I'll be like 80 and using like Hum anti-aging supplements like the Turn Back Time and Arctic Repair. Maybe I'll try it, like start it next week just for preventative measures. But these products are amazing. I am currently loving the Collagen Love. Collagen Love. I cannot say enough about collagen. It's changed the game for my hair, skin, nails, and my joints. I'm not as rickety and like in pain as I normally am. And I am also using the Gut Instinct, which interestingly enough has helped with my skin. So talk about gut health and the microbiome and how it affects your skin, your mental health, all of that. This has really improved my skin. So I'm so impressed. Let us know how you're loving the Hum products. You can go to humnutrition.com and use the code almost30nation, ALMOST30NATION for 15% off your first order. We're so excited for you to try. Let us know. Back to this episode.
What are some examples of things that you've like manifest? Can you tell us like a manifestation story of something?
Yes. Oh my gosh. So some like the key ones that I always love talking about because it's when I went, whoa, I'm powerful. I don't know if this is just me, but I'm powerful. But I had been living in, I think it was like a $1,600 place. It was super expensive. I had such low self-worth. And at the time I was acting and cocktailing at a comedy club on Sunset that also treated me like shit. That was definitely a pattern is everywhere I would work because I had such low self-worth about what I was worthy, not only with money, but with authority and bosses. So at that point, I had a girl that walked in to work one night who said, I was paying like $1,600 and had no money and all my money was going to rent. Yeah. So this girl walked in and she's a magical unicorn manifester as well. And she's still in my life, but she was like, I did it, guys. I did it. I found the $500 guest house in Laurel Canyon. It's a cabin, bungalow, like everything you'd want. I manifested it. And in my mind, it was my first expander where I was like, what? That's even possible in LA that you can find that? So she was the first. And in my mind, I'm like, she's a unicorn. She always has really incredible things happen to her. So I wrote it off. And then I ended up sort of, quietly for just a moment dating this guy who we went on a date, and he was like, yeah, my place is $325 in Echo Park. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me?
Right.
Like, that's a thing. And at the time I really had wanted to live in Echo Park, and it was already happening. Like, prices were not generous at that. And right now they're just almost as much as Venice in a way.
Yeah.
So that started to be my second expander. So it opened up the belief that, okay, I guess this is possible, that people can find those deals in LA. And then my third one happened to be another guy friend of mine who was in a band, and he and every one of his bandmates had really kismet, or they lived at home but had really kismet, great deals on where they lived. And so that was enough for me to feel expanded, where I was like, okay, I'm a powerful person. Anytime I put my mind to it, I can manifest. So I was leaving I was leaving Las Vegas and driving through the Mojave Desert that on a Sunday, and I started to just list off to the universe because I had heard my third expander, and I was like, tomorrow we're finding our version of this, and it can only be in Echo Park, Laurel Canyon, or Venice, or Topanga. And so I was like listing off the things. I was like,
or Encino. It's fine too.
Definitely not Encino.
You're like, oh, that's fine too.
Yeah. So I started to list off, and it was like, Echo Park has to be in the hill. I was like, these places has to be in the hills, white walls, crazy stuff, internet that I get for free, just stuff that would really make my life a lot more free. And so I listed these all off, and the next day on Monday, I started to drive all around looking, and I was like, no, I can usually feel what it feels like when manifestations are going to come through. And this was before I really knew my process, like far before. And so I looked all around and I wasn't finding anything. And I was like, what? This has never happened. This is crazy. I usually always can feel and know when that connection's happening. And so when I finally left Laurel Canyon in the evening, I got the ping. I call them like intuitive downloads. I just got a ping that was like, text that guy that you went on that date with that one time. I have no reason to talk to him. We didn't end well.
He's like, what?
Yeah, I know. And so I texted him a year later out of the blue. And I was like, hey, if you ever leave that spot in Echo Park, because I remember the potential I saw in designing it, let me know. I would love to move into it. And he said, I'm actually moving to Chicago in 2 weeks. Here's the landlord's number. And I was like, a $325 apartment in Los Angeles would change my lifestyle 100%. At that point,
Then I'd spend $1,300.
And like, yeah.
At Year One.
Exactly. I would be able to buy more Aron, which is where all my money goes anyway.
Yes.
So I ended up getting in touch with the landlord, and it was like dicey. It was between me and these two other girls, but I finally got it. So that was one. And that was a great example because I had just done something, which I can't remember right now, that I had passed a test. So I had magnetism around me. And so a big part of when you're in that, I call it sort of like a magic dark. It's when you've done all the legwork, you're expanded, you put yourself out there, you've passed all of your tests that you recognize, and you're in this zone of like, okay, I call it the magic dark. It's like the darkest before the dawn. It's when the water recedes and you don't see the water anymore and you think nothing is going to come through, and an avalanche, comes through, or a big wave, a tidal wave will come through. I call that the magic dark. And it tends to always happen. And so my clients always know now. They'll text me, they'll be like, I'm in it. I'm in the magic dark. I can feel it. And I'm like, I do too. It's coming. So right now you have to pass any tests. But a great example was I had done this thing where I had like all these dysfunctional relationships because of the modeling I watched of relationships growing up. And these dysfunctional relationships were usually me being a bitch to guys. Like, it wasn't usually their issue. But that's what I watched from my mom. And so then I hit like a big lesson from the universe, and I got my heart really broken. And I mean, my whole course of my life changed after that heartbreak. It was so it knocked away any self-confidence I had. I mean, it took it all out of me. And so for 2 years, I was consciously single, but, stepping into my power as a woman and dating and learning what that meant, which was a huge key in helping me learn this formula as well, that anytime you're in your power, you're so magnetic.
That is the damn truth.
It is. And no book teaches you that. They're like, be in the vortex, be positive. And it's like, no, fuck that. When you have self-worth, that's when you finally...
After every breakup, I would always be killing the game.
Killing it. Yeah. Especially one that you left or that left you because it wasn't serving you. If that's the case, you kill it because you have a magnetism about you. You're in your power. And so then I got into this relationship, and we're actually still good friends today. And he's a client of mine, but it was like his, childhood trauma, my childhood trauma attracted each other. And within 6 months, we were just fighting, and we're like, this won't work, but I love you and you're so amazing. And I saw for the first time what I really did want versus what I didn't want, and that I could consciously really create that. And so I made a list and I started to call in, and it was like long blonde surfer hair, artist. I was 25, so it was like all this stuff.
You're like sweet band that we can live in.
Sweet. And I even put on, I was like European mom, photographer, astrological signs that it could be. And so when I broke up with this person I had been talking about, I was at that point cocktailing at a place on Sunset called Thirsty Crow. And so I walk in there, and that night, a guy walks in, and he starts talking to me, and he has all the things on my list, speaks French, his mom's Parisian, all this stuff. And he's such a wonderful soul. But in that moment, I was like, oh my God, this is my list is right here. And it took us a moment because I really had to pass some tests, and I had to see if he was a test too. And at the point in which I realized it was like, he's not the test, he's fully my manifestation, to the T, the full list. I was like, okay, this does work. Anytime I step into my power, I'm expanded to know that they exist and that I pass the lessons and tests around it, my manifestations will show up. Period. It just happens. But at that point, I didn't realize that there was such a thing as limiting beliefs, tracked in your stuff, because you can get all the superficial elements of what you want just having the formula. That can pretty much help you if you're credible of superficially stepping into your power, which tends to just mean ego, just powerful, you can definitely manifest on a very superficial level. You can get the bags and you want and the partners and the houses and the things. But when we start to look at the real dynamics that make us happy and unhappy on a daily basis, i.e. things that we're attracting in that just don't feel good or dynamics that don't feel good, that's when I started to go wait, the partner I called in's here, but we're having issues. And that's where I really started to put the pieces together, where I'm like, this is always going to be a process of, it's just our process of growing into wholeness. That's all this is. That's all we're on the planet for, and to serve. I believe those two things. That's what we're here for. And so that's when I really started to put the pieces together of limiting beliefs, and that we actually don't manifest. I knew we didn't manifest from our thoughts once I threw away all of the old literature and started to look at my processes. This doesn't happen. I think in such polarity at all times that if everything I was thinking was showing up from negative to bad, my life would be crazy on a daily basis, So it's not our thoughts. It's definitely not that. And then I knew it's more of our beliefs, but I didn't understand until I started to see when I would have the manifestation really show up and embody my list, but we still had issues. I was like, yes, it's so much more energetic and finite than that. In order for us to have true happiness, we need to get down there and reprogram those to just project from complete magnetism, which all complete magnetism is just, it's like a fully owned human. It's fully owning your shadow. It's being humble. It's being completely loving. It's not judging. It's all the shit that we know from 5,000 years of what conscious behavior is. But there's one thing to fake that on a conscious level, and there's another to subconsciously reprogram so you just naturally exist that way. And so that's what I kind of figured out. So this has been a process now for, I think for me, I'm 32 now, and I started to really put the pieces together individually for myself at 25. So it's been a 7-year process to be like, yeah, this is it.
Yeah, that's
it's a full thing.
That's the key there.
Was the surfer guy a no-go? It was just...
Oh, and so, yeah.
Can we still find him at the Crow? Or
Yes, what's the place called? That's so funny. We were together for 6 years. Yeah, we were. Or 5.5, almost 6 years. And he is such a magical, magical human being. He is the most beautiful, kind, talented artist on the planet. But because this is the beauty of manifestation, we come from very similar backgrounds and dynamics in a way. You know, he struggled with alcoholism in his family, and I did too. And there's things there that made us both not able to fully love completely, vulnerably, and honest and commit all of the way. And I think as women do, I started really investigating myself and going deep and doing work and consciously wanting to make changes. And it wasn't really where he's at. His process is through art and just it's just different than mine. And he at some point definitely told me that he never really wanted to get married or have kids, that there was a big fear around that for him. And around 30, I had to truly honor that and be like, I don't think that's happening. And what was really hard is that his mom is like my biggest mentor, best friend. I mean, just the most, like my mom, she's so magical that it was really hard to leave that situation. But at some point I was like, I do want a family and I do want children. And we were at the space too, where I think you can't really go deep in intimacy unless two people are really willing to look at their stuff and really get vulnerable. And so we hit a place where it was kind of a roommate, brother-sister dynamic, though there was a lot of respect. We just didn't have that spark. So finally, once I let that go, I already had my list. I had already called in my person in a way because I just knew it was about 1.5 years where I was like, I don't think like he's changing on this one. I don't think he's just going to wake up and be like, I want to do all the things. Yeah. So once I finally left, I had 6 weeks that I was single. And I felt
6 weeks too long.
6 weeks. She's moving out the whole time. Literally.
I swear not. So I had 6 weeks and I had to really, and I was so keen on my manifestation process at this point. It was like, I don't know, the last, nail in the coffin where I was like, okay, when I do A, B, C, D, E, F, and G, it always happens. And so I had made my list and I had 2 tests come along and I had done so much work in that relationship and so much after now. But then I had expanded so much. I wanted such different things. And it was so clear that I was like, this person's going to come quickly. I can just feel it. I know that it's going to happen. I can always sense that with manifestations. And so I had 2 big tests come through. And I mean, they were very hard to read. Very hard to read. It's like, if I didn't know my process, I would have been one of those girls where it's like, that'll change. That's not loud. That won't get louder. But so even though they were like the shiniest dangling carrots, I was like, I'm not fucking around here, universe. And I was like, no. And so after the second one, and I believe this with the universe so wholeheartedly, especially with my women who are calling in relationships, which is kind of my forte. And so I'm always like, yeah, you can be on apps and you can do all of that. But 95% of the time, usually the universe will part the waters to have you guys meet in person. But they do happen sometimes on the apps. So with me and my current fiance, what happened was...
You're that guy's fiance. Okay. So it's a happy ending.
And it's not a perfect relationship. Again, like everything, you just have to continually, I think, do the work. So what happened was an old friend of mine who we had lost touch, she had gotten back in touch recently and we had dinner one night. And then she invited me to a barbecue of hers a few weeks later. And that's where I met him. He was there. So the universe does always clear the water or parts the ways for you guys to connect. And then I ended up actually not seeing her for quite a bit after that. So it was like the perfect little opening.
How'd you know he wasn't a test?
Oh, it was so clear, right? And there were things that I definitely, because he wasn't what I thought would show up, even though he was way more special than what I was calling in. I mean, I was calling in much older and just, all these things. But once I met him, I was like, oh my God. And once I really knew him after a couple of dates, it was like, not really knew him, but I could kind of gather more. I was like, whoa, you're my whole list. You're the whole thing. And it was just very clear. And so I tell people a lot, when it's the person, it's just so easy. It's just so simple. And I'm sure you probably experienced that in the beginning. There isn't drama and it's just like, there is an ego. It's just such a connection.
Like moving forward.
That's it. It's
That's
just
all
natural.
It is. You just like move forward without any like reckless. You're just like eyes on the prize. Like it's like you just do. You just act. You don't think. You just act.
Think. Yeah. I mean, I definitely had like a crazy girl dating mindset going on. I was like, but it was so effortless for both of us in a lot of ways.
Love that. Congrats.
Thank you.
I want to just touch on quickly the expander thing. I think that is such a great, I've never thought about, when you talk about expander, I think about living in LA and I kind of think about being surrounded like people like you, like-minded, but also not like-minded. Do you know what I mean? Like doing things that, like, I've just discovered living here, so many things that I admire in people and so many careers that I admire that I'm like, oh, I didn't even know that was possible. And just being around people like this has expanded my conscious to know that certain things are possible or true, or that I can do certain things. So I think that is like such a good takeaway for people listening to the podcast, to think about situations, people, places, or things that can help you or be expanders for you. Going to groups, going to meetups, listening to podcasts, to me, honestly, is a great expander.
Huge.
But finding those things to help you kind of move to the next level, so it doesn't need to feel so forced. Like, okay, what do I need to do to get to the next level? Just finding places or opportunities that you think are going to be expanders and then exploring those.
And you really hit it on the nose, because people will always say, like, who are my expanders? I don't know. And a lot of the work I'll do, I'll find it out from them subconsciously in the session. It comes to them right away. Really? But there are a few really beautiful things to note on that. And what you said is so right. And a lot of expanders for people tend to actually be in the public eye in some capacity, because the only thing we're doing when we admire someone else is it's all shadow work. We're just projecting onto them what we recognize as possible in us. That's all that's happening. And so once they know they're expander, especially if it's, like someone in the public eye, the first thing I'll have them do for the full week, I'm like, go and read every interview, listen to every podcast, find out everything you can on them, because you'll start to find the parallels really quickly. And the more that your subconscious recognizes that you guys are similar, the quicker it believes that something's possible for you as well. So that's one really great note that you just like intuitively already know. And then another element that's really important, and this is like mentorship 101, but honestly, the 8 people, the way our brain works and the retina is just attached to our brain. It's our first processor. So who we surround ourselves with, the top 8 people that we will always, if we get out of our own way with limiting beliefs, we will just naturally gravitate into having what they have. It's completely effortless energy that happens. So surround yourself around expanders. Like, you do that and you get rid of your limiting beliefs. So if you're expanding and getting rid of your limiting beliefs, you're naturally going to hit the marks of the people you're around, and they will with you as well. The only thing that could stop you from hitting those marks are all of those beautiful little beliefs in your subconscious that are like, well, of course, they come from money, or they have this or that. All that's talking when that's happening is low self-worth. So the more that you grow those limiting beliefs, that unlivability, the bridge actually gets way smaller for expanding. Because you feel in your power, you'll start to see really quickly that what somebody else has is very possible for you, that you deserve a similar situation in your own authentic way. So that's a huge element to expanders, is just surround yourself around them. And I always tell people to go pick up aspects of expanders. Again, going back to relationships, or relationships are like the easiest, but going back to relationships, if the relationship you desire or the job you desire, go find elements of it. So it doesn't I'll be like, look around. You probably have friends that are already in a relationship that you desire because your subconscious is still operating on the belief system of the parental modeling you grew up with. That's how prehistoric the subconscious is. So, and some will be like, well, I don't love every aspect of the relationship. And I'm like, look at the aspects that you do like. Is it the communication? And then just witness them in communication. Our brains are so savvy that it right away will snap for us that, oh, A communicates with B, and that's how C happens. Okay, cool. So we just subconsciously now are showing our unconscious mind what should be happening, what we need. Another great element are reading books, honestly. Reading books about how things should happen. That won't do it all until you see it in person, but it's an amazing, I always say expansion can happen in threes. Really, that's like the most profound. And it kind of goes back to my story of manifesting the apartment. It took a third person for me to go, okay, this is definitely possible in LA. And then another great way for expanders, especially if it's homes or if it's more on the materialistic plane, relationships, more material, flesh, watching TV and movies and stuff like that are incredible expanders. Why? Because you're in a hypnotic state while you're watching it. You go into alpha. So your subconscious is forward and you can't tell the difference between what's happening and what isn't happening, if it's real or not. So if like a great example is myself included, if you've ever had this like character on TV that you look and you go, am I supposed to meet this person in life and be with them? Like that crazy connection.
Yes.
Usually not. Yes. You're not. But all that's happening.
Oh my God.
It's happened.
Me and Justin Timberlake have been sync. I was like, oh my God.
Right?
Yeah.
So all that was happening then is that you were projecting onto him. It was a part of aspects of what your soul wanted was being projected onto him. So in that moment, I mean, is there anything about your partner or partners you've been in the past that are similar to Justin Timberlake when you break away, like that he's famous and has money, like physical
They're all
aspects.
famous. They have money.
Yeah.
Pretty much those.
They can dance well or whatever.
Great bleached curly hair.
Yeah. So, all that was happening with him, he was just serving as your first expander. And so, like, even for me, a great example of this actually goes back to even when I was in my last relationship and at the tail end of it, season 2 of Girls, Christopher Abbott, the character, Marnie's guy, right?
Yeah.
And that's when he has like the startup and
the swag now.
The swag before the heroin,
before the heroin, but
oh my God.
But like season 2, he
does have swag.
He does.
Yes.
And I had always called in, none of the guys I've dated look the same because I'm an Aquarius. We like worlds. But when I was calling in my future partner, the one I'm with now, it was like blonde, long hair again, things that I was still operating on from before. But if I look back to that season, I remember watching and going like, that's what I want. I was just so into the fact that he was like working in a startup, like had something going on, was just, was really in his power creatively and whatever. So there was that. And then like right towards the end of my breakup, I got so into Peaky Blinders. Did you guys ever?
No.
Okay.
No.
This is incredibly embarrassing, but I think it actually shows expander as well. And quite a handful of my girlfriends have felt the same way about this. But Cillian Murphy's character in it, I was like, okay, I don't know if Cillian Murphy and I are supposed. I mean, he's been married for 14 years.
Isn't it fun when you Google them? You're like, are they married? Do they have kids? How old are they?
And it's like, oh, like he's really married and with kids. Yeah.
Damn, they're happy.
Yeah.
All right.
They're probably going to be together forever. But no, all that was happening with his character was I was so, and I think every woman, but I was so intrigued by the darkness, but he was so soft with only the one woman that he loved, and he was powerful and dark in his hair and complexion. So it was so fascinating that once I had my current partner show up, he like has a dark background and when he was a kid, he was like a bad boy. And now he has a startup that's successful and he's dark. And it's like, duh, all I was doing, my soul was just projecting the next thing that I wanted and expanding through it. So TV and movies can be an amazing way to do it because you're already in a hypnotic state.
Love that.
Yeah. So many ways to do it.
I know.
You guys should
crazy.
talk. I'm like,
no,
No,
I think they're over it.
No, I don't need
we're
to
good.
talk. I'm taking
They don't
it
come
in.
here for
I'm
us.
about to walk out of here and friggin'.
I know.
Go
I want to be
expand.
your client.
Actually, I'm
we should work
gonna
together.
hire
Honestly.
you.
Oh, we should
I'm hiring.
definitely, definitely work
Yes.
together.
I want you to hypnotize me and see what I say. Like I want
We'll
more
record
car.
it.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll be a session.
What's coming up for you?
Yeah.
You're blown up. I mean, you have blown up, but I
Thank
I
you.
feel like I'm hearing
You're manifesting
more
some
and
things.
more. What are you manifesting? Yeah.
You know, what's so interesting was this year was the first year I sat down and I was like, it was back to, I had manifested everything and I was like, what do I like, what's my new year intention? Because I don't do resolutions. I think that's the problem, but I wasn't resolving, I was intending. So I was like, what is it? And I was like, wow, all I want this year is just to be of service as much as I should be. And it was so beautiful for the first time to not want anything on the material plane, or it was just like, universe, I'm yours. You do what you want with me. Take me where you want to go. I'm just here for you and I'm enjoying the ride. And this is the thing I'm the most geeky about. So that was it. And so what that started to look like, it was like, okay, I want to, get the message out louder. What does that look like? And I really resonate with podcasts. So that was one of the first things that came to mind. And then that's all, it has shown up and with such amazing people, you guys. And so then press has really started to roll in. And so I guess for me, what I actually like with what gets me excited is all the new stuff that I'm releasing on the blog, because it's never, for me, I get so geeky that I'm like, whoa, Unblocked has helped so many people. When you even go on the page of Unblocked, I just have put comments from all of the people that have taken it. And it's like, never connected the dots. Oh my God, this is mind-blowing. Thank you. Yeah. And to have people start to make that connection for themselves, especially people who don't want to wait the 5 months to get in with me or, pay the fee to Unblocked is so affordable. They range from $46 to $60. So that was like such a fun thing to put out. And it really like took away any guilt I have about, charging prices that make me want to do the work still and be passionate about it. So that was really cool. And then the next thing that I'm really excited about, and I know it seems so trivial and small, but it's like, how do I take all of my in-person stuff on an even greater digital level? Not the work, because that I already do digitally with people one-on-one, but my workshops and stuff like that. So people can just download them and do them in Alaska and review it at their own process and at their own time. And so that's where all of my excitement is. Like, I'm so grateful for the press and all the things that, come with that. But for me, it's still geeking out of like, okay, like, my biggest intention always when I'm sitting down is like, I want to hack manifestation. Like I guess that's where I'm, like all the other Tim Ferriss and the people in the world. But I'm like, manifestation to me is about 15% spirituality, and then the rest is psychology, and the rest is just getting into ourselves and becoming conscious and shifting that. So for me, and at the end of the day, manifestation is really just energetics. And I tend to see that really well and feel it really well of like, if you do this, that will show up. This is what will happen. And so all I'm trying to put into the world and express and make tangible for people is how to do that in step-by-step easy scenarios and ways so they can harness it for themselves and do it in the world. That's it. It just lights me up.
Thank you.
I love what you said about I am here for you, for the universe. Saying like I am here for you.
That's it.
I love that.
That
I'm gonna
feels
say
so
that. I'm gonna say that
freeing.
every day.
Do it.
I'm here for you.
Yeah.
Like
guide
do
me.
what you want, guide me. I'm here for you.
I'm done controlling. Show me.
Whoa. That is like everything. And not resolving intending with New Year's resolutions.
Yeah.
God, that is like
Also freeing.
Yeah, that is so amazing.
Yeah, for New Year's.
In 2018, I'm going to use that.
Do it. Mm-hmm. And I always am like, what cool skill can I pick up instead of the like dumb thing I'm trying to get away with?
What can I change that's already,
Yeah.
100%. That is beautiful. Okay, where can people connect with you? And tell us about the what we can get. What was you saying? Unblocked, yes. Tell us about Unblocked too.
So freeandnative.com.
Yes.
That's still the umbrella in which is still a blog, and I'm about to hire an assistant editor who can just take over the blog component of it because I'm just getting too busy to do that. Although there will still be the one manifestation article a week, which is always just usually debunking why the other stuff doesn't work, and you do need to fix yourself in order to manifest. But so it's at freenative.com. You can find me. And then the Unblocked is it'll be right on the front page. I always have the next one, that's coming up is always there. And the next one is reparenting and reparenting our adolescent self and our inner child, which is, I will be frank, literally our whole lives are a reflection of the years between 0 to, and I'm generous, I say 14, but unless something very traumatic has happened after that. But most psychology, it's until 5 to 7. But I'm pretty generous about, that's pretty much where we're projecting from still, is what happened in those times. And a lot of people, will be like, mine was great. There's nothing. And it's like, there's always something, because otherwise you would just be projecting in a completely magnetic state, So there's stuff there. There's shame anywhere, There's shame from media. There's shame from being a woman. I mean, there's stuff to unblock. So you can find it on the front page, and then even at the top tab under manifestation, there's an unblocked link there always. And it's beautiful. You do it in the comfort of your own home. They tend to range from like 3 to 8 days. This next one will be an 8-day one. It's really going to dig deep into the pivotal things that need to be shifted from childhood in order to start projecting it a little bit different of a magnetic state. And so what that looks like is you do it from the comfort of your home or computer device. It'll have my recordings and my writing and my journaling stuff that I need people to do to really discover the roots of things. And it takes about 20 to 30 minutes a day. It'll be 8 days, and then people have access for a month, so they can go. I always encourage them to go back with a different intention, whether it's like, now let's look at childhood and money. What was I programmed around money, and see where I'm blocked? Let's look at it in relationships. Let's look at it in, relationship to friendships. Let's look at it in work and bosses. Let's look at what authority was like for me. And, was I seen? Was I heard? Or, was I over-dominated? So this one will be really special and really exciting. I'm
going to do it.
I'm going to
do it.
Let's do it. Let's get our group to do it. Secret.
Yeah.
So if you guys aren't in the Secret Almost 30 Facebook group, join, because we're going to be doing this together.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it'd be so fun.
Oh my God, it will be amazing. We'll do it together.
I would be so excited to come in.
Yes. Thank you for
And also, we're going to do an event with you.
Oh,
so we just signed you up.
Yes.
Yeah,
we'll
just
talk
thought
about
it
dates
now.
later.
It was like ESP across the room.
You got me? Yeah. I was like,
I'm there. Can't wait.
Thank you. Thanks, Lacey. You're the best.
Yeah, you're the best.
Welcome.
This was everything.
Thank you guys for having me. I'm so grateful.
Oh, we love you. Thanks, guys, for listening. We'll have all the links up in the show notes. And thanks for all the new reviews. We really appreciate it. We saw a bunch of new reviews come through, so those mean so much. Those help us keep bringing on amazing guests like Lacy and spreading the word. So we love you. Thank you so much.
All right, guys. We'll see you soon.
See you next week.
Bye.